In this video, we'll be looking at adding, subtracting, and multiplying matrices. So on the screen we have two matrices, A and B, both of which are 2 by 2 matrices, meaning they have 2 rows and 2 columns each. We can add these two matrices by adding the corresponding elements in the two matrices. So if we add the top left element of A, the 1, plus the top left element of B, the 0, we get 1. If we add the top right element of each matrix, so that's 2 and -1, we get 1. If we add the bottom left element of each matrix, that's 3 and 4, we get 7. And if we add the bottom right two elements, then we get 6. And we can do this on our calculator as well. So I have in here matrices A and B. So when we add matrix A to matrix B, we get the same answer. Now we can also subtract matrices in this same way. So we can do matrix A minus matrix B, and we just subtract the corresponding elements. So the top left minus the top lefts, so that's 1 minus 0 gives us 1. Top right minus top right, so 2 minus -1, that gives us 3. 3 minus 4, the bottom left two elements, 3 minus 4 gives us -1, and 4 minus 2, that gives us 2. Now, what you'll notice about these is that if we had an extra row on A, let's say it was 0, 3 down here at the bottom, we could no longer subtract these matrices because we wouldn't have corresponding elements to subtract. So we can only add and subtract matrices where the matrices are the exact same size. So 2 by 2 plus 2 by 2 is fine. 2 by 3 plus 2 by 3 also fine, as long as they are the exact same dimensions. Now we can also multiply matrices. We actually just have two different types of matrix multiplication. The first type is where we multiply a constant times a matrix. So in this example, we're going to multiply the matrix A by 2. So we're going to multiply each element of the matrix by 2. So that's going to give us 2, 4, 6, and 8. And we could do this in our calculator as well, multiplying 2 by matrix A and getting 2, 4, 6, and 8. The other type of matrix multiplication is a bit more tricky. And so this is actual matrix multiplication, where we're going to be multiplying one matrix times another matrix. So when we multiply matrices, it's not quite as easy as before. We don't just multiply the corresponding elements. Instead, what we do is we multiply a row of matrix A times a column of matrix B. And so what we're going to do is multiply the first element of this row times the first element of this column. So 1 times 0. And then we're going to multiply the second element of the row, 2, times the second element of the column, 4. And we're going to add those together. Once we've done that, we can multiply the first row of A times the second column of B. So the first element of the row times the first element of the column, so that's 1 times -1. And then the second element of the row times the second element of the column, so that's 2 times 2. And then we'll multiply the second row of A times the first column of B. So again, first element of the row times first element of the column, so it's 3 times 0. And then second element of the row times second element of the column, 4 times 4. And we add those together. Alright, lastly, we'll multiply the first or second row of A times the second column of B. So that gives us 3 times -1, and then 4 times 2. And so we can go ahead and simplify all of that. The top left there, we have 1 times 0 plus 2 times 4. That's going to give us 8. For the top right, we have 1 times -1 plus 2 times 2. That's going to give us 3. For the bottom left, we have 3 times 0 plus 4 times 4. That's going to give us 16. And then for the bottom right, we have 3 times 1 and 4 times 2. 3 times -1 plus 4 times 2. And so that's going to give us 5. And we can do that in our calculator as well. Matrix A times matrix B. Now, as you may have noticed, we multiplied the row of A times the column of B. So if we were to switch those, it wouldn't be the same. So if we multiplied matrix B times matrix A, we'd then be multiplying the rows of B times the columns of A. So we'd no longer be multiplying the same numbers in the same order together. So for matrices, for the most part, if you switch the order in which you're multiplying, you're not going to end up with the same answer. And so we can see that by multiplying matrix B times matrix A, and saying that we in fact do not get the same answer. Now there are some exceptions to this rule, but you never want to assume that they're going to be the same. So when you're multiplying matrices, you always want to make sure that you're multiplying them in the right direction. Now, it's also important to know which matrices you can and can't multiply together. So in this case, A and B are both 2 by 2 matrices, meaning A has 2 rows, 2 columns, B has 2 rows, 2 columns. Now, when we multiply a row times a column, we need for the number of elements in the row of A to be the same number as the number of elements in the column of B. So the number of elements in the rows of A are determined by how many columns A has. The number of elements in each column of B is determined by how many rows it has. So A and B are both 2 by 2. What we need to match are these 2 inner elements. As long as those 2 match, we can multiply matrices of any size so long as those 2 middle numbers match. So we could multiply a 4 by 2 times a 2 by 7. That would be perfectly fine. Or a 52 by 2 times a 2 by 37. As long as the 2 middle numbers match, we can multiply the matrices together. If the 2 middle numbers do not match, then we don't have the corresponding elements necessary to be able to multiply those matrices. And so if you put that into your calculator, it would tell you that it would not be able to multiply those 2 together.